Namaste. The word philosophy, when used in the Indian context, generally brings to mind of the general public Vedanta, which in turn is some search for moksha or a search for the true self and things like that. This is not an incorrect picture of Indian philosophy, but to think that that is all Indian philosophy is, that Indian philosophy is moksha shastra, would be somewhat incomplete picture of Indian philosophy. Thinkers in India have thought about some abstract concepts also, or what we may call technical topics also. They have thought and they have given several theories in these technical topics also. Some examples of these topics are: what is cause, what is knowledge, what is the definition of knowledge, what is time, what is space, what are the basic categories of the universe. So padartha, as we say. One such area in which Indian philosophers have contributed significantly is the area called philosophy of language. Now, philosophy of language is a sub-branch of epistemology, and in this we are asking questions like, what is a language? So we are not concerned about this or that language, but we are concerned about the general concept called language. What does it take for something to be called a language? This further breaks up into several other questions like, what is the constituent of a language? What is a word? What is meaning? What is a sentence? How do words come together and form a sentence? And such other questions. And in this, Indian philosophers have made significant contributions. The development of this discipline is fairly recent in European or Western philosophy. In fact, historians of philosophy date it to the publication of a particular paper called Sense and Reference by a German mathematician philosopher called Gottlob Frege. His paper was called Sense and Reference in 1892. Whereas in our Indian tradition, the speculations about language have been carrying on in a very significant manner right from the Vedic age. In this short session, we will see some very unique contributions of Indian philosophers. I have chosen three concepts. One is that of Apoha theory, the Apoha theory of meaning developed by the Bauddha philosophers. Then the Dhvani theory, or the theory of suggestion, propounded by Anandavardhana. And lastly, the Sphoṭa theory, which is a very unique contribution made by Bhartrhari. So let us begin with the Apoha theory. This was set forward by the Buddhist philosophers as a response to the question, how do words refer to things? So when I say the word table, you can immediately cognize this table. But the Buddhists were in a very peculiar position to answer this question. Because of their some other commitments, metaphysical commitments, they could not accept any enduring or permanent external entity. Everything was momentary according to their Buddhist philosophy. So now they were in a very peculiar position as to explain this very fundamental truth of the way in which the language operates, that words can refer to things. So to answer this question, they came up with a sort of very genius answer, that when we use a word to refer to a particular entity, we are not referring to a positive entity. So the word table doesn't mean any positive thing like a table, but it means everything which is not a non-table. So I repeat, everything which is not a non-table. So first of all, you form a set of everything which is not a table, and then you further apply a negation to it and exclude the things. So you will be left out with only the things which are tables. So by using this sort of a double negation, the Buddhist philosophers are able to answer to an extent this question, that how words refer to things. So again, to give another example, when I say cow, it refers to all those things which are not non-cows. The second theory I want to mention is the Dhvani theory of meaning, advanced by a philosopher and also poetician called Anandavardhana somewhere around the 8th century Common Era. This Dhvani theory was meant to address the question, how is it that we are able to perform so many things in language? Take a simple example. Supposing that there is a new restaurant which has opened in your locality, and your friend has visited that restaurant. She comes back and you ask her, how was the food over there? And she makes a face like, oh, it was fantastic, or something like that. She makes a face and she says, oh, it was fantastic. you immediately know that she is not saying that the food was fantastic. She in fact means the opposite, that it was not good at all. So how is it that language, with the help of the context etc., can mean something completely different from what is the literal meaning? So to answer this question, partly Anandavardhana advanced his theory called Dhvani theory of meaning. In this he says that words have the capacity to suggest a meaning which is not their literal meaning. A classical example given is Gatostam Arkaha. So Arkam Astam Gataha. So the sun has set. This is the sentence. So it seems like a declarative sentence. The sun has set. I am just passing information. But this simple sentence has the power to suggest various things. So when a mother is telling this sentence to a child, she is suggesting that you please come inside. It is getting dark. So enough play. Now you come inside. That is what is getting suggested here. If a traveler is saying to the fellow traveler, Gatostam Arkaha, it means that we have to find some shelter, we have to find hotel or something like that. That is the suggestion that is done. The sentence is the same. It is declarative sentence, but the suggested meanings are different. Lastly, we come to a very original hypothesis proposed by the philosopher grammarian Bhartrhari, which is called the Sphoṭa theory of language. The general theory until Bhartrhari was that there is a word and there is a meaning of the word. There is a sentence and there is a sentence meaning. What Bhartrhari proposed is that this kind of duality is not there. There is no meaning and meaning bearer. This kind of a duality is not there. These two are two aspects of the same what we can say speech principle, which he called Shabda Brahman. So he brought in a sort of Advaitic bent to philosophy of language, some people have argued. He said that these abstractions that we have, like word, this is a phrase, this is a noun, this is a verb, these are all only meant for theoretical purposes. These are meant for grammarians or linguists to do their business. It makes teaching a language very easy, it makes developing tools for a language easy, but in reality, language has no such distinctions. The sentence is the primary unit of a language and it gives its meaning in a unitary fashion. The sentence meaning is cognized as a single burst of meaning when the last word is uttered or when the last letter is uttered. And this is where he comes up with the word Sphoṭa, which is derived from the verbal root sput, which means to burst forth. So the meaning simply bursts forth when the last letter of the sentence is heard. So the analogy he gave to explain his point was that of a jeweler who is trying to estimate the value of a particular jewel. So this jeweler holds up this jewel and has a series of perceptions, visual perceptions. He turns this way and that way and tries to judge the gem, and finally after seeing it for some time, he just has a intuitive knowledge of what the jewel is worth or the gem is worth. Similarly, when a sentence is uttered, we have a series of auditory perceptions, all the words we hear, and when the last auditory percept we have, the meaning simply bursts forth. Later on we sit and do the abstractions, but during that very moment there is no division at all in language. So this we can certainly claim to be a very original and thought-provoking contribution made by Bhartrhari. We conclude this short session by reminding ourselves that Indian philosophers have made significant contributions not just in an existential exploration of the self, but also in several abstract concepts of philosophy. And within this latter set, their contributions to philosophy of language are especially worth mentioning. I have just given a very small sampling from it, what I felt were the most unique contributions. There are several more interesting questions like what are the rules for interpreting a text given by the Mimamsikas, what is the relation between word and meaning, what are all the ways in which a word is connected to the sentence, how do words come together to form sentence. Like this, there are several other questions which are worth exploring. Even though the ultimate goal of Indian philosophy may be attainment of moksha, for those of us who are interested in some abstract thinking, etc., for them also Indian philosophy offers a very rich set of tools which you can use to explore. Thank you.